slight difference between those two, and I think they'll be one of the very first things that we discuss later on. Just to start off with my journey, what have I done so far? And essentially, if you're listening to me, all I want to tell you by this is why should you listen to me? That's all I care about. So I started off with my undergrad from Habib. I did my collaborative side of innovation rather than just the lab side of it. और उसी दौरान जो है मेरा AI ML वगैरह की तरफ भी शौक पड़ा. लेकिन when I saw the engineering mindset up close, and not to offend anyone over here, but I found that to be very rigid in terms of कि नहीं मेरे पास ये components है तो मैं यही बनाऊँगा, मैं मेरी expertise इसमें तो मैं यही बनाऊँगा, versus actually going on into the field, trying to talk to the customer, user कि अच्छा चाहिए क्या भले, even if it's something that I cannot make at that point. So उससे I transitioned into it was a very fuzzy field at that time. तो मुझे पता भी नहीं था क्या होता है, मैं करना क्या चाह रही हूँ मुझे नहीं पता था. So I started discovering design क्या है, design thinking हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं, काफ़ी बहुत ही polished सा package है. But then I started looking into more like systems thinking हो गया, design as a field, and that's how I ended up at my graduate program at CMU Carnegie Mellon. Which is in product and service innovation. So it's a very hybrid of a program in which, so it's engineering, design and business. So whatever engineering I had seen previously, I took that into more of a what are we doing and why are we doing it, and then uska business context technically. And then since I started developing my interest in AI, ML, मैंने जो engineering part था उसे define कर दिया as in a product management for AI, and that's what I ended up doing. During that, I worked at 99P Labs, which is Honda ka the research lab or the innovation lab of Honda. We worked with them on their electric vehicle project, in which we designed a EV charger sharing platform, so that it had a host side, it had a user side, it had a huge donation component. So we worked on that. I worked at Simple Practice, so that's a healthcare startup based out of LA, जहाँ पे I was essentially working as a PM on their insurance product, and I really hated insurance after that because I feel like that product itself is so complicated to understand. There's so much effort required to be able to sell it to anyone else. जो बंदे हैं उन्हें नहीं पता कि भाई पेयर क्या है, पे क्या है, कोपे क्या है, और वहाँ पे तो हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस वगैरह बिकॉज इट्स सच अ फ्लॉड हेल्थ केयर सिस्टम, it was really needed. And then right now I work at HCI, which is CMU का ही Human Computer Interaction Institute है, in which I work as a research associate. We're working on machine learning solution using machine learning and artificial intelligence to see gender equality and diversity in open source platforms. So we're using GitHub to try to see अच्छा हमारे पास कितने women contributor हैं, किस तरह की उनके आपस की communication होती है, interaction होती है, all of those things. So this is, I spoke more than I think I needed to, but essentially my journey, what it has defined so far is कि ठीक है, you have engineering, you have tech, but tech is not innovation itself. Tech is means to innovation. And how you do that is when you bring in business as well. You try to see the business context of it, and you try to see what really is needed. So I think what we started off very beginning में कि अच्छा नहीं मैं project manager ही हूँ, मैं product manager हूँ. So what do you think is the difference between the two of them? Anyone, just speak out loud.
प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर आई थिंक सो जिस प्रोडक्ट को मैनेज कर रहा होता है फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल उसकी R&D करता है. प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर ही होता है उसके पास जो प्रोजेक्ट्स इनलाइंड होते हैं वो कॉमन टेक्नोलॉजीज यूज़ कर रहे होते हैं और उनको उसमें कोई न्यू इन्हांसमेंट करनी होती है तो वो उसकी इतनी डेप्थ R&D नहीं करता है. आई थिंक सो.
So you're saying essentially कि innovation का फ़र्क है, कौन नए आइडियाज़ पे काम करता है या कौन एक फॉलो प्रोसेस और पाइपलाइन को फॉलो करता है.
प्रोजेक्ट में डेडलाइंस को मैच करना होता है, प्रोडक्ट उसमें आप मैच्योर नहीं कर सकते. आप प्रोडक्ट के अंदर जो है आप उसको इन्हांसमेंट करते रहते हैं कंटिन्यूसली और उसको मेच्योर करते रहते हैं, और इन दी एंड अगर प्रोडक्ट के फीचर्स भी डेवलप्ड हो जाते हैं तो फिर आपके पास डेटा इतना आ जाता है कि फिर आप उसके थ्रू और फीचर्स डेवलप करते हैं.
Right. Anyone else? I think that's a very good point. We'll talk about that. At least एक और तो कोई बोल ले, फिर इसमें से कोई बोलना. What do you think? Like just looking at product and project as two nouns. आपको क्या लगता है क्या फर्क
Project
होगा?
is a bigger product comes under the umbrella of project. I think.
Okay. I disagree with that, but that's because PM, like product managers, and I mean, there's a little bit of friction between that. I love this diagram because I think मैं जितना भी समझाना चाहूँ मैं नहीं समझा सकूँगी, but this Venn diagram would do a very very good job. What I like to see it is as कि project manager जो है ना वो आपके resource allocation कैसे कुछ develop होगा, कब develop होगा, क्या आपका Gantt chart बनेगा, क्या आपकी pipeline है, क्या आपके पास resources हैं, कब deadlines है, all of those things. Product managers are more about this phase before that, which is कि बनाना क्या है. Again मैं बोल रही हूँ कि मुझे एक नया onboarding process चाहिए. So forming that onboarding process in terms of let's say आप prototypes करा रहे हो, आप wireframes करा रहे हो, very initial stages में, that's more of a PM product manager's job than a project manager's job. At the end of the day value तो सभी create करते हैं, but it's all about what contribution are you bringing in the team. So that's kind of the nuance of a difference that I like to highlight in terms of क्योंकि later on even if we talk about let's say innovation की बात करें या business की बात करें या design की बात करें, why do we talk in terms of product and not project is because वो सारा जो काम करता है वो आपका PM करता है, which is product manager. I mean yeah, we love making Venn diagrams, and another Venn diagram that इसे हम often we call it as the holy trinity of design कह लें या product कह लें, which is so there is everything the human desires, that is human desirability. There is everything that is technically feasible. अगर मैं अभी यहाँ पे बोलूँ कि नहीं मैंने EVs लेकर आनी है कराची के रोडों पे, नहीं आ ही नहीं सकती ना, आपके पास उसको कोई इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर ही नहीं है. At max where we are right now is hybrid. आपके पास Prius वगैरह हो गई, but that's at max what we can do. And then there is business viability. आपको पैसा कौन दे रहा है उसका? If at the end of the day no one's willing to pay you for it, it won't survive. If it's not scalable, it won't survive. And essentially this is where we like to think कि जो है ना innovation lies, कि यहाँ पर जो है once we have a point in which we produce something that someone desires, a human user desires, it is technically feasible and there is a business case for it, that is where we can most confidently, the probability of innovation is the highest. I wanted to talk in very much detail about कि जो है ना कि product life cycle क्या होती है for AI products, but I feel like based on I think the maturity level of this group, आप लोग ने कितना काम कर लिया है, if you have previous experience or not, this is something that हम बहुत देखते हैं. आप कान यहाँ से पकड़े हैं, आप एजाइल से पकड़े हैं, आप वाटरफॉल से पकड़े हैं, एट द एंड ऑफ द डे आपके पास एक प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है, आप उसको जो है रिलीज करें. इट्स ऑल अबाउट व्हाट गोज ऑन इन दैट गियर, इन दैट पाइपलाइन. वी लव टॉकिंग अबाउट कि अच्छा नहीं हम स्टार्ट करेंगे प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स, हम बहुत सारे यूजर रिसर्च करेंगे, हम बहुत सारा ह्यूमन सेंटर डिज़ाइन करेंगे, हमारे पास एक हमारी स्टेटमेंट आएगी, हम उस पर आइडिएशन करेंगे, विल क्रिएट अ फ्यू possible solutions, फिर हम उसमें और iteration करेंगे. ये all of that, while it is very true, while that is what goes on, but in reality all of these lines, all of these circles, it just becomes one big scribble. क्योंकि आपके पास कुछ आया, आपको आपके PM ने प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर ने कहा कि नहीं भाई ये वाला फीचर नहीं, दूसरा वाला फीचर रिलीज करना है, आप ये करें वो करें. At the end of the day you're just following what someone else tells you to, and the overall sight of the project really gets lost in terms of कि अच्छा मैं करना क्या चाह रही हूँ. Which is why I believe teams में product manager होना चाहिए जो who and now you know not everyone can be a PM, not everyone is a good PM. I don't know if I'm a good PM. But I think one quality that you really need is the ability to telescope through a problem. Abhi agar ye hua hua hai, how can I zoom out and see which circle is this a part of? What has really caused it? अगर आपके पास बहुत ज़्यादा रोड ब्लॉक्स आ रहे हैं, चाहे वो एक पेबल के साइज़ के हो या आपके वो बुलडोज़र के साइज़ के हो, whatever it is, where did it arise from, and how can you navigate through that ambiguity? So yeah, so essentially in this all mess that we try to navigate through, so essentially in all of this ambiguity, what we try to do, what we try to see is what helps is our mindset, jo ke it takes time to develop. And while I understand this is an AI class, आप लोग चाह रहे थे आप सब engineering background के हो या नहीं हो, या at least you want to pivot into a very engineering focused career. I want to talk about this because this is what's going to help you when you go into the industry actually producing AI products. Yeah, let's say any technical product. What helps you is your mindset in terms of how do you produce what you're producing, how do you add value, how do you create impact. क्योंकि अगर आपने let's say आप 6 महीने एक project पे काम कर रहे हो लेकिन उसका अगर impact नहीं आ रहा है at the end of the day, आपका supervisor, आपका boss आपसे ये नहीं पूछेगा कि अच्छा तुमने 6 महीने क्या काम किया था, लेकिन if it's not translating any revenue, if it's not increasing any user base, if it's not increasing your user conversion, तो पूरे 6 महीने की मेहनत का फ़ायदा नहीं है. So one thing that I have found really helpful is being customer focused, customer driven. Now that starts from actually talking to your customers. In fancy words, we like to say that we're going to create empathy for them. But essentially, what I like to see is कि आप अपना bias side में रखें, आप अपना क्या कहते हैं, your love for the technology, keep it outside of the door and then come in and try to see what really are you trying to solve. Be data and experiment driven when you're taking decisions, चाहे वो आप data से अपने reasons को justify कर रहे हैं, you do A/B testing कर रहे हैं, आप MVPs बना रहे हैं, whatever it is, have a valid reason behind what you chose. Address the full value stream again, not just don't look at product as a solution. अच्छा मैं सिर्फ ये वाली ऐप के ये वाले फीचर को देखूंगा, नहीं. See the entire customer journey, see the entire stream of all the touch points that you have when the user interacts with you, and what can be the possible ways in which you can create value. Release incrementally and often. इसका छोटे भाई को हम कहते हैं कि fail fast, fail often. Instead of creating so much backlog, आपको लगेगा oh my, I'm going to create a perfect product and then release it. A perfect product does not exist. आप जो भी बना लें, user को उससे मसला होगा, आपकी QA team में उससे bugs निकलेंगी. So छोटे-छोटे increments करें and do them often. Plan strategically and react tactically. What I like to see in this is कि आपने your action should be tactical in short terms, but it should be strategically sound in the long term. So अगर eventually मैंने let's say Google के, if I'm working at Google, I want to increase their user conversion from any search base या किसी ad की मैंने conversion increase करानी है. So eventually that's my strategic goal, but my tactical goal is कि अच्छा मैं अपने SEO increase करके अपनी ad को ऊपर लेकर आऊँगा, या मैं keywords को change करूँगा, या मैं कुछ search words में search word algorithm को optimize करूँगा, whatever. But you need to think of both long and short terms together. And again, embrace change. Your user, they change. उन्हें खुद नहीं पता होता है 90% of the time what I want. Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Vehicle, he said that if I asked user what they wanted, they would have just said we want faster horses. तो क्या वो जाके faster horses बनाएंगे? नहीं. What he did is create motor vehicles because user didn't know themselves कि उन्हें क्या चाहिए. So the market, we've seen it with COVID, everything keeps on changing. So just be agile, just be on your feet and rigid mindset नहीं बनाने. One thing, yeah, again, we love to say this, oh, we're so comfortable with ambiguity, we're not, हमें भी डर लगता है. Ambiguity, when we say ambiguity, what we mean is not knowing what's right in front of us. We might say, oh, I want to know what the user wants. I know what the user wants, but I don't know. I don't know that. What I do is I make assumptions. So yeah, we do need to be comfortable with ambiguity, but it's not easy. One thing that helps in terms of being comfortable, being open, having faith in yourself when you're experimenting is when you create prototypes in terms of validating whatever idea you have. So, I mean, I'm sure यहाँ पे everyone knows what a prototype is, but why do we make them? Anyone? Yeah, what a prototype is.
To experience the end result in initial phase.
To experience the end result and to predict कि क्या होने वाला है. सही. What else?
I think before making any product public, it's initially tested within the certain parameters whether it will gain popularity or not.
So basically, idea validation ले लो before taking any big amount of risk or anything. What else? I do have a list of why we prototype. I mean, I just want to hear from you guys. So, okay, so essentially traditional methods जो हैं, they're very long procedure. आप अगर corporate में हैं तो उसके आपके protocol और sign-offs वगैरह में it will take forever. What we want to do is we want to prototype, test, and iterate, and continue improving the product. What essentially helps us is what this helps us with is that it provides us quick experimentation with alternatives. As we mentioned before, it gives feedback on your design. So I really want you guys to understand this कि हम कितना अपना bias रखते हैं. If for example, I've always seen search bar at the top of the page. I am very naturally going to design that way, even when I'm designing any other prototype, right? Lekin what if for my context it doesn't work? What if for my device it doesn't work? What if मेरा वो जो है Galaxy phone Z Flip जो है, for example, would their UI be the same as an iPhone's or any other Androids? No, because their screen is larger. iPad की same होती है नहीं. Why? Because the user is different, the use case is different, the context is different. So getting feedback on those, and trying to validate or like check कि मैं कितनी biased हूँ in designing anything. It fixes problems before the code is written, saves time and money, which the company always only cares about, keeps the design centered on the user and not the code. And again, there are multiple fidelities of prototype as well, जो हम phi कहते हैं, low phi, high phi, so that's phi for fidelity and it's the level of detail. Now we have a low phi prototype which is just a few sketches on the paper, आप napkin है आप उस पे बना लें. What it essentially shows is, we'll talk about that, okay. So this is something very rudimentary, आप उस पे time नहीं लगा रहे हो, effort नहीं लगा रहे हो. All you need to do is convey that idea कि अच्छा मैंने एक screen बनानी है जिसमें all I need to do is have a drop down या what the user needs to do is select what kind of music do they need to hear. Versus if you do very high fidelity, which almost looks like the final product, but it's just the prototype, it's just the UI, पीछे से कुछ connect नहीं हुआ है. And this we often do. High fidelity often comes with digital prototypes, digital mediums, and low fidelity is through paper. Low fidelity, there are numerous benefits, but most importantly, it's not time consuming, it's not money consuming. Faster iterations at the end, the number of iterations is directly proportional to the final quality. So the more you iterate, the better you will produce for the final product. Almost all interaction can be faked. So if I say that my device has to have voice recognition, I don't need to add anything, but if I'm presenting it, I can tell it's a very voice recognition hai. Almost anyone can do it, so even in the team when you have non-coders, non-programmers, they're also part of the process that helps creating a very diverse team because again, ज़्यादा लोग आएंगे from different background will have more expertise and more the number of eyes who are looking at the same problem. So I might have very arts background comes, they might be able to point that out. लेकिन इसके साथ अब मसले भी होते हैं वो ये है कि of course it's very difficult to explain it to someone. Some functionalities are very difficult to implement in them. It doesn't look like a final product, so you can't take a lo-fi prototype and give it to your client and say कि ये हमारा बनाने का इरादा है वो बोलेंगे अच्छा हम आपको पैसे किस चीज़ के लिए दे रहे हैं. So you can't show lo-fi to clients. The end users whenever you're testing lo-fi prototype, you can't just give it off to someone and be like अच्छा मुझे पता है आपको कैसा लग रहा है नहीं कर रहा है. You always need to accompany because you can't explain, not everything is explainable in a lo-fi prototype. But also when we say कि अच्छा lo-fi prototype में अगर इतने मसले हैं तो hi-fi prototype also isn't the perfect model to go forward with. The dangers that we have in hi-fi prototype is that essentially it takes more time to build and it takes more courage and precision because अगर मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि अच्छा नहीं the model, the prototype needs to look exactly as the final product and I myself am going to be very finicky about it, very detail oriented. मैं बहुत time लगाऊंगी on the minutest of the details. So it does tend to waste time. People tend to focus narrowly on one design. It's easy to lose track of the bigger picture. क्योंकि मैं उसी की color themes में लग जाऊंगी नहीं purple का ये वाला shade नहीं ये वाला shade ज़्यादा better है. And then one thing that I really don't like about high fidelity for testing with users is because अगर हम उन्हें इतनी full-fledged product आगे देंगे ना तो they would be very resistant in pointing out any mistakes in it. So let's say आप उसमें कोई पेमेंट का मेथड डाले या पेमेंट गेटवे डाले लेकिन बहुत ही full-fledged है ऐसा लगे कि असली ऐप है. But when you give that to a customer, they're going to be hesitant. नहीं यार इसने इतनी मेहनत की है मैं तो नहीं कह सकता. It might be my problem कि मुझे क्यों नहीं समझ आया कौन से बटन को क्लिक करना था. So when you're testing, often try to test it with mid-file prototypes because that helps the engagement that you want to build. Again, you can get very sophisticated with a paper prototype. Mehnat, it's all about how much effort you want to put in, what are you trying to get out of it. I do have a lot of stuff now you can take mention in. Another prototyping tool is storyboarding. I'll just very briefly go over them. For example, for any movie, what we have is every single scene is first made up on paper. कि अच्छा हम brainstorm है कि इस scene के बाद ये scene आएगा, even every single shot. So that's called a Hollywood storyboard in which you have every single thing laid out in front of you. So even if for the biggest of the movies that you've gone through, if you were at the back end of that movie production, you would see this like binders of pages of prototypes of storyboards being formed. But we can use the same context, same tool to make it for applications. Now, a Hollywood storyboard or like storyboard, what it helps out with is कि आपको context बताता है कि जो है अगर if it's not just an online shopping tool, but it tells that if it's a working mom, if it's a mom who has a child, how would they react to it? How would they use the tool? So it really builds up why are you doing what you're doing. So it lays out the important screens, lays out the flow, and it essentially helps contextualize why and what of the interface because even the screens are situated within the story. And then there's this other form of storyboard which is interface storyboard, which we very frequently call wireframes or interface flow diagrams because the difference between the two is that हॉलीवुड जो मूवी वाली हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल मूवीज आर वेरी लिनियर, एक स्टेप होगा उसके बाद एक स्टेप होगा उसके बाद एक स्टेप होगा, नथिंग कैन इन्फिल्ट्रेट बिटवीन दैम. बट द थिंग अबाउट interface storyboards or interface flow diagram is that it's very multi-dimensional. If I come click on one button on one screen, I can click on 17 different buttons on the same screen. So it's very non-linear, the users can jump around. But again, what it helps with is कि आपका scene पूरा layout करता है कि overall flow क्या रहेगा, कि अच्छा login से onboarding होगी, आपका information लेंगे, फिर आप ऑनलाइन शॉपिंग फिर आप ब्राउज कर सकेंगे अपनी फीड पे. So it's very haphazard-ish, I would say, but it essentially flows. It points out what are we doing. It's very bad quality picture, but this is the prototype actually that we built for our Honda project, the EV1. I think this is at least 1/3 of all the different screens that we made. And again, what helped us out was इतनी सारी screens हमने lo-fi में बनाई है because paper में बनाना आसान थी. When we translated into hi-fi, इतनी ज़्यादा screens नहीं थी. Why? Because at this point we were just trying to communicate the idea कि हम करना क्या चाह रहे हैं. We also made storyboards because that helped in trying to explain the client as well. Honda को भी हमें बताने में आसानी हुई कि what really are the two parts. So there's a garage owner, there's a charger owner, there's a EV electric vehicle owner. How will their interaction go? Why do they need this specifically instead of all the existing solutions right now? And then we had a very hi-fi prototype as well. It was interactive, like it was just the UI's backend making. I wanted to do a little activity, but I don't think we have time, so I'm going to skip this. And then just very quickly going over that. So after prototyping, again, it comes कि आपने prototype तो कर लिया, आप test भी करोगे किसी के साथ. One technique that I really like, especially because I've spent so much time talking about lo-fi and mid-fi prototypes. So one technique that essentially helps is Wizard of Oz, in which so you only have the UI. आपके पास सिर्फ let's say paper की screens हैं. There is no computer, but a person pretends to be a computer in that. So for example, if I give you, let's see a very small video. We'll see just like shoot like minute. Right. So we start with. आपको आवाज आ रही है? So now the person who's narrating is the Wizard of Oz because they're just pretending to be a computer. And one thing that we try to encourage the user to do is think out loud during these. क्योंकि अगर कोई hesitation होगी तो वो शायद हमें नज़र नहीं आए. But if the user is like, okay, where is that button? We can try to see, we can identify कि अच्छा उन्हें वो वाले button में visibility में problem. So for example, if I were to analyze this, I would try to see after this कि अच्छा ये खुलेगा कैसे? Because अभी तो हमें पता चल गया कि अच्छा someone has to open it, but how would I replicate that functionality? So they're trying to replicate even the smallest possible interaction that they have with the user. Now, if it were actually अगर let's say इससे भी high level की testing हो रही है and they actually do take out some blood extraction वगैरह होता है, so one thing that I see missing over here is कि what does the user do once the blood after the pain? तो उसके बाद यूज़र क्या करता है? So do we need to provide some sort of sanitary napkins करना है, wet wipes provide करना है, क्या करना है? So all of these things we know when we're testing and not before that. I didn't think about this before this. So I mean, so you can look up more into Wizard of Oz testing. It's a very interesting technique. It's very much used in computer products. So right now this was a very low prototype. उसमें इस तरह की testing हो रही थी, but when your prototype is even higher fidelity, you have a computer you have a human, you have the user sitting in front of a computer screen, and that's not connected to anything. लेकिन सामने से आपका एक you try to replicate the functionality of the program by just showing them the screens that you want to show them. So, and then why paper? I mean, I would encourage whenever you're trying to prototype, at least for the first few times, to try to get your hands dirty, and it doesn't get dirty when you're using paper. But then just because paper is very malleable, आप उसे आराम से क्या कर सकते हैं? क्या कर But you can do that. You can completely discard it. You didn't like it. You get rid of all of it without getting attached to it. और मेरे साथ जो सबसे ज़्यादा मसला वही होता है, यही होता है कि यार ये इतनी मेहनत करके बनाया, ये चला लेंगे, चल जाएगा. But that doesn't work at the end of the day with the user. So that was the yes. Okay, I'll just quickly go over it because I do want to keep a few minutes for question answers. Again, हमने ये सब सीखा है, हम किस में apply कर सकते हैं AI, ML. It's really, I mean, I'm really glad that we have a bunch of students over here doing this right now. By 2025, I think, so this report was by World Forum, and they said that from of the top 10 jobs that we have, that would be like the coolest jobs or the most relevant jobs by 2025, or the skills would be number one, data science and cloud computing. They both go hand in hand. We have AI and ML, and then we have big data science. And then the fourth one, you guys, from 4th till the 10th one, none of them are CS related. So it really helps us to see कि किस तरह से how these 3 skills would help define the other 6 skills, or even when we look at more than just the top 10 skills. In any technology, what we see is कि एक ही trend जाता है. आप आज से 10 साल पहले का आप IT का देख लें, ये था 5 साल पहले communications वगैरह का था, 5G वगैरह का. It's all this one trigger that makes it reach to the peak. Then we have एक ट्रफ आता है जिसमें there is no engagement, AI winter वगैरह, all of that. And then आहिस्ता आहिस्ता करके एक plateau आ जाता है, which is the saturation till when the technology goes forward. While it is true for AI as well. The only difference is that when we're looking at artificial intelligence and these hype cycles, it's not one cycle when it comes to AI. What happens is that there are these curves being stacked on each other. What the difference that makes is that at any given point there is this new technology, new fragment of artificial intelligence or machine learning that is on its way to the hype, on its way. Yeah, abhi agar kuch if it's dying down, then there is something else that is being researched right now, and that will be very viable, let's say 2-3 years later on. So let's say agar hum dekhen linear regression, right? Linear regression was probably done 30 years ago. Uski hype cycle आई 20 years ago, it died down. It's probably not going, linear regression is not going to change drastically from now onwards. That's what I think so far. Lekin, does that mean artificial intelligence died down? No. What happened was कि हमारे पास CNNs आ गए, RNNs आ गए, language models आ गए, आपके पास reinforcement learning आ गई. So there's just so much going on. The opportunity space really increases. Another article, I mean, they said that the data science is the sexiest job of the 21st century. Why is it so? There's two components that I really like to see. पहला है कि AI for everyone का concept बहुत ज़्यादा गया. I'm not from, I mean, I'm from an engineering background, but I'm not from a very strictly CS background. मैंने इतनी coding नहीं की थी इससे पहले. But I was able to step into it. Why? Because now we have people engaged in, let's say, AI के sales हो गए आपके पास, tech PMs हो गए आपके पास, business analysts हो गए. Everyone can now just join this, for the lack of a better word, bandwagon, but then it just really has space for everyone. Accessible AI बहुत accessible हो गया. And the second thing is that the kind of problems that AI helps with is the uncertainty or like the complex problems. A few years ago, the VCs, venture capitalists, really took out their faith from AI, but that was because we saw कि repeated problems में ही जो है आपका AI की application हुई थी. But now, let's say for climate change problems, or we're still in the middle of COVID. उसकी problems, all of these uncertainty times, we can't really rely on rule-based learning. So now we do really need models that we are continuously developing right now. I think इसकी business value बहुत ज़्यादा, because only 15% of artificial intelligence is being used with core ML problems. So let's say self-driving cars, that's a core ML problem. If there's no machine learning, there's no self-driving car. But 85% of machine learning is being applied to what we're already doing. हम ट्रांसक्रिप्शन कर रहे थे, हमने ट्रांसक्रिप्शन के ऊपर वो डाल दिया. हम कस्टमर सर्विस कर रहे थे, हमने कस्टमर सर्विस के ऊपर चैटबॉट डाल दिया. हम ऑनलाइन शॉपिंग कर रहे थे, हमने उसके ऊपर इमेज बेस्ड सर्च डाल दिया. सो इट्स 85% of the things that we are already doing, so we don't really need to do like a huge big breakthrough कि हम कैसे करेंगे AI, but it's all there. We just need to find the right problem to solve it on. And again, because I don't know what the background of this room is, but I'm guessing the two big groups of people that I have previously interacted with, just like a few parting words from me. If you're from a non-technical background and you're trying to really pivot into, I think it's a very good step that you're taking in terms of being in this class and acquiring yourself with this knowledge. Another thing that you need to really explore outside of this class is when to say no to AI, because AI is not a hammer that you can put on every nail to solve a problem. अगर आपके पास एक simple problem है जो rule based programming से solve हो सकती है, use that. You don't need this complexity. If you don't have the data set, you really can't do this. If you don't have good quality data, so really try to see when can or should you say no to AI. Get curious, lifelong learning. Abhi there are probably like 19 more things that has happened in AI since the time I came here on Google Scholar. So just try to stay updated. Some things might work out for you, some might not, but at least be up to date with the trend and try to see the overall system of the things that has been applied in. अगर आपको लगता है कि try to see the business use of that context. Try to see कि why really is it happening, what is happening. Because we might not be completely ML engineers ना बन जाएं शायद हम, अगर हम data scientist भी बनते हैं, अगर हम business analyst भी बनते हैं, so you do need to see how all of these people come and interact in one system. And then if you're very entrepreneurial, आपको if you are in this room because you want to start something of your own, please solve an actual problem. Don't create a problem that's in your head, which is why we've gone through, all the different levels of testing. Validate your idea. If you bring your idea to anyone, before telling the solution, they'll be like, "This problem kya solve kar rahe ho?" So have an answer to that, and it should not be a problem only for yourself. And then figure out who's willing to pay you the money for it, because अगर कोई आपको इसके पैसे देने को तैयार नहीं है, तो you can't really make a difference. It would be a project that you have on your GitHub and it would die over there. So really just try to ask these questions for yourself. Why are you here, and what can help you go further, inshallah. I think that's pretty much all I had. I would really encourage you guys to ask questions and feel free. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have.